What makes software development expensive and unpredictable? Trust shoring. Hello, I'm Chris Athanas. I'm a KMP developer. Tech support said they're coming out Tuesday, and they're going to close it up for us. Finally, we're going to be done with that thing. Today, I'm going to be responding to a video. I just skimmed it a little bit. Called Trust Showing, which I'm going to give them a like and subscribe off the bat, and just give them give him a shot, guys. Give him a shot. Let him cook. Let's see what he has to say.
Have you ever wondered why some software project costs as much as a hypercar while others more like a used Volkswagen? Well, let's dive into the complexities and costs behind software development.
All right, let's
Obviously,
get into it.
feature complexity and how many functions and buttons and tables and views software has is a factor, but not like most people think. An app that only does one small thing can be far more complex to build than an entire suite of tools with lots of dashboards and buttons
True.
and so
I
on.
agree.
And why is that? For example, think about Google or the original Google product, the Google search, right? It was literally one search bar and one button. Yet, it's probably one of
Yes.
the biggest development teams on this planet that's been working on this for a very long time.
Right, but not in the beginning. It was just a couple guys. Let's not forget that. It was just a couple dudes, supposedly. I mean, I'm considering what they're just remember what they've told us. It's a couple dudes in a garage cranking it out. Yes, it became something more, but let's not get ahead of ourselves, sir. They had to prove themselves with that stuff first, and maybe get some government contracts on the side. But let's keep going.
Obviously, disregarding all the other products that Google has, but still. So why is that? So first of all, you might be dealing with complex technologies that just require specialists, right? And so
Okay, right? Some technique, something. Yeah, but all this stuff is technical. All this stuff takes expertise. None of this stuff is out of the box easy. Anyone that thinks that hasn't tried to use it, or they're using AI to create a to-do app. Okay, let's keep going.
that might be you have enterprise technology that you use, or you have enterprise clients, and
Right, and it's not it's not the complexity. It's the complexity of their demands, right, and how they want it done, and interface with all their systems with all this legacy crap that. Yeah, they got all kinds of requirements. So yeah, that's the complexity, but it's not like it's some scientific complexity there. Let's keep going.
you're working with proprietary technology that requires specialist engineers. You need to take into account
Right.
special compliance, security, special testing. So
Yes, they got all
your
kinds of shit.
audience is in the enterprise space, or you just have to use enterprise technology for some reason. That is always more expensive. If you want to use blockchain, big data, custom machine learning models, any other rare technologies, obviously, that also requires highly
He's like, wow.
skilled engineers, and that comes with premium salaries. If you work with complex things that are
Yes, because it's very risky to go into that field when there's not a lot of people asking for that stuff. Yeah, and if it's a hard thing to do and you've proven yourself somehow, some way, or you have some insight that you can just bullshit your way early, then yeah, it's rare that people that want to dick with it. They're already snapped up someplace else. They want to do on your thing as opposed to the other thing that they're already doing.
operation or bandwidth heavy that you need to optimize audio video processing, live streaming, other operations, things that maybe you can outsource to a third party company, but maybe you can't, or that's what you want to do specifically. That also requires quite a bit of work. And lastly, financial transactions. If you perform financial transactions, I don't mean the billing that every SaaS app does. In the end, you outsource that to Stripe or whoever else. But if you actively take part in, and I don't necessarily mean credit card processing, but obviously also that, but if you
Canadian
automatically move money from one account to the other because you're a marketplace or something like that, then you need to make sure that what you're doing works, right? With most MVPs, most first versions, you can just wing it with a few bugs, that's fine. But with financial transactions, you cannot have a bug. You can't transfer the wrong amount to somebody. You can't.
I mean, they do all the time, sir, but yes, in general, it's a bad practice.
Move $1 million to the wrong place. You can't miscalculate anything, so you really need
I mean, it happens all the time, but let's
to
keep
take
going.
special care to QA from check algorithms from the very beginning, right?
Algorithms? I don't know. We're doing a lot of algorithms in banking, subtraction, addition. You mean like security holes and putting this stuff on the internet and let people access it? They've had difficulties with that the whole time, so let's not kid ourselves. Let's be the major experts. It's like, man, they've been having hassles with that. They finally just recently got the fingerprint thing on the working fingerprint login. It's like, come on, guys.
And so if you do financial transactions, then that just becomes something you need to take special care.
Also, if you're in the financial industry, you're just going to charge you more because they know you get access to money. What are you talking about, dude? We're talking about fiat currency systems. So yes, in banking, you're going to get paid. And it's not exactly the most thrilling work in the world. Let's keep going.
The second segment that we see are research heavy or unpredictable development areas. And here we go again. custom machine learning
Right. Risk.
models is a typical area where that's more of a research project. You try, you see how well it works, you fine tune.
Right. There's no guarantees at the end of that. So you're playing a risk. You're the risk, and you got to know the risk going in. And just software development in general is super risky.
You test, you see where it needs to improve, you go at it again. And there's quite a few mods like that. Or legacy code. If you're working with a legacy code base, that's like navigating a city without a map, right? And
yes.
Imagine you're a city planner and you need to fix something in that sort of city, traffic flow, for example. It's just a nightmare. You tweak things, you see what it does, you see where it blows up, you try again, but it's nothing that you can't estimate really well.
And right? No, you can't estimate this stuff. You can just say, okay, we're gonna take 6 months to see how far we get, and if you're acceptable, we'll keep going. And if not, the legacy says, well, how long is this gonna take? They always want to know, but they always have time to redo this stuff, but never time to do it right. That's why it's expensive, and the people that go in and work on these legacy systems knows that they're getting off the technology, the technology ladder, and going back to somebody else's stuff, and they got to be compensated for that, man. It says you want somebody that's competent, knows what they're doing, not just cheaper off Fiverr. If you want somebody that actually is going to be competent enough to go through the diagnosis of going through the pile of garbage that's your legacy code base and figuring out what the hell's going on to fix a bug or update a thing, instead of you biting the bullet, which you should have done years ago, and revamp this base and taking care of your people instead of having them run off, and now you got to find a new guy to come in and fix your legacy base that won't make it worse. And of course, these guys are going to try and nickel their dime away through. So after you come in, you're a well-paid guy. They finally figure it out. It's like you're going to have to go through all this garbage that people have already done because they've been shinsing out the whole time and trying to think that they can get away with that forever. Let's keep going.
And another thing would be integrations. When you do a lot of integrations, then sometimes you can research those very well. Sometimes they deliver unpredictable results.
They're always random, man. Integrations are always random because they're trying to get their customers, trying to meet their customer needs, and that's always changing. So yeah, integrations are always a nightmare. And again, expensive as hell, because once the integration is done, you better have a reason for making money, and it better be worth my salary. And if not, what are you doing?
Sometimes they don't deliver what you need. We made another video
all the time, constant
video that entire
better be charged by the hour. I need this. Okay, 2 weeks later. All right, I don't have a problem with you doing 2 weeks. Just maybe by the hour.
He talks about the complexity of integrations and what to watch out for. You can watch that too. And another video that
they're all going to be a pain in the dick. No way around it. You could be warned up front of all the things. It doesn't matter. You still have to go through it. It's all the baloney bullshit. Yeah.
Done, but this is part of that is crawling. There's a lot of sites. Usually you do crawling because the site doesn't publish it.
Web scraping? Okay.
An API, and that means it doesn't want you to consume its data. That's why you do crawling in the first place. And so these sites often have anti-crawling.
But there's ways around that. There's services around that, all that stuff. But it's just like having an expert that knows how to do all that stuff is expensive. You can get somebody off Fiverr who'll give you a web crawling thing that's going to work for about a week or two, and then it's going to be blown up because they're going to detect the things there. Or you can hire an expert that knows how to get around all that stuff, and you're just going to have to pay extra for that, or just get your business eaten by somebody else who's willing to deal with this stuff.
Measures in place. And so that turns into a cat and mouse game. We've also done the video on that, so feel free to watch that too. The third segment is just time-consuming things, not complex, but time-consuming things that every SaaS app needs to have, or that are just a lot of work. Now here we're actually going into the feature.
The grunt work, dirt work. Yeah, people should be compensated well for this stuff, because it is, they're the opportunity costs for someone that's capable of doing these things versus something else. That all has to be kept into consideration.
So social features, gamification, automated.
I mean, those are all big deals. Those are all have to be integrated into solutions. So it's just he's cutting. These buzzwords are not that helpful. Sorry, let's keep going.
That's super custom billing, invoicing, authentication. If you're not using any libraries or frameworks for that,
you definitely should be. You should not roll your own. Don't even think about rolling your own authentication. Are you crazy?
Significant work. That's a lot of stuff. If you're building a lot of dashboards, that is one part of it. But again, it's a smaller part. Now we're getting into one of the biggest ones, which is scalability. And
you have to build your application from the ground up for this. Let's keep going.
And let's use Google as another example, right? Or a simple to-do app.
Wow, that's a big range. Google? A simple to-do app. It's a big range there, buddy. Let's keep going.
An app that really just displays a list of to-dos. You can check them off. You can add a to-do.
Yes, we know what a to-do list is.
The simplest apps you can have. Probably every single course that teaches a programming language.
Yes, we know what a to-do list is, sir.
Probably has you build a to-do app in a a couple of hours, right? And so it's really easy to build a to-do app, but where it gets really complex is how many users are actually supposed to use that thing. If it's
It's just okay. It's an example application to show off the framework, sir. It's not supposed to be a full-fledged application. Okay, let him cook on it. Maybe as an example, he's coming with an example, Chris. Maybe he's just using this as a lead in. Let's keep going.
one, if it's your friends, if it's your beta testers, sure, it's probably going to work. It's going to work in any environment and any infrastructure. You don't have to optimize anything. It's going to work in any database, any CDN, anything. But if you want a million users to use it, then far more work than goes into creating that app goes into the scalability engineering. And you
I mean, that has to happen, but getting the so those he's split. He's assuming you have product market fit, just like boop. All of a sudden you have product market fit, and it's like, yeah. Then when you do the scale, yeah, of course that's. But getting the product market fit is super hard, man. Like that's just one thing. After that, we can do the scaling thing later. There's all kinds of ways to set that up. You can save yourself a lot of heartache if you create your monolith from the beginning, the way Alan Kay and what Yegor Bugayinko talks about, which I have videos on in my course, How to Program from the Ground Up, which is in the deeply do below. I go into detail about that, as opposed to the COP way, which is what Bjorn Strustrup and his ilk are all trying to like the old classic Java style. Yeah, you're gonna have a lot of problems with scalability. Now you might be able to get it up and running quickly though. So there's trade-offs everywhere. Let's keep going.
don't see any of that on the front end. And that can make a difference between being even able to launch to a larger audience or having to start with a beta testing group in the first
A beta. He must be Canadian.
place. And so scalability dramatically influences the development cost, the complexity, whether you
Yes, once you start scaling stuff, you're gonna have a team involved. Yes, a team involved, but you're gonna feel good because that's a bonus. And if you've built your monolith and applications, so you can start splitting off those services as microservices instead of inside of microservices inside your app. It's now microservices outside. Yeah, then you've done yourself a favor. But that's usually you're doing version 1 or 2, and the MVP is going to be built as quickly and as slap shot as possible, just to see if you even have anything, just to test if you even got it before you start doing the scalability stuff. Premature scaling, man, it's killed a lot of companies. I've definitely worked at least one that took this route, and it's done. It's over.
need or you don't need to do any sort of automated testing. And when you have a beta group of 20 people, 30 people that even know you, bugs aren't that big of a problem. People
You still have to do some sort of testing if you're going to be smart about how you build your back end. Is this guy a developer?
right, you will fix it and it's going to be fine. They have a different tolerance to bugs as opposed to 100,000 users. First of all, the tolerance is different. Second of all, it's going to create a customer support nightmare that's an actual cost, right, when something is down or doesn't work. So it's worth.
I mean, unless you just have them go to a page that says it's down now. That's not a customer support. I guess it depends on what you're trying to do, who your customers are, who you've decided to do product market fit around. Some places don't care. Like Google, do you think you get Google on the phone easily? Just as like a Gmail user? Good luck.
Worth paying the extra dollar to have automated testing and really try to catch as many bugs up front as possible. Lastly,
I don't think we catch them. I think we have a path that we know we haven't broken anything. I don't think you catch bugs. You just catch things that may have been a mistake off your path. You don't catch bugs. Is this guy a developer? I can't. I'm starting to question if he's a developer. Let's keep going.
all that changes the technology choices, the infrastructure demands, and all of it, and that just produces a different cost. Now that you understand what the complexities and costs are in software development,
I understand what they are. Do you understand what they are? Let's keep going.
The question is, you're probably talking to developers, to your team, to software houses, and nobody mentions any of that. They just throw you a number, throw you an estimate, tell you how long something's going to take. How do you know that? And so, an open communication with your developers is really
well. They're figuring out sales numbers, buddy. So a lot of times these numbers are thrown out to see if where they're even in the ballpark. You want to break it down afterwards, everything down if you really want to. But it's like it's always going to cost more than you think. Let's keep going.
key here, because if you're just getting single-digit estimates, that doesn't tell you how certain or uncertain something is.
Single-digit estimates. I'm not sure what that means.
So you really need to dig into that. You need to ask, how certain are you about each and every single broken down task? What architect?
Uncertain. This guy, I don't think this guy's a developer. I think he's a business. He's like a business guy who's technical, like a technical sales or something. Because a lot of these things, if he really was a developer, he's like, until we get into it, man, get right down to the nitty gritty. We're gonna have phases of this, and you want to know ahead of time how long this is gonna take. Well, we're gonna give you a number, after poking around. This is what the developers, the guys are. We're gonna poke around, see how you feel about certain things, and see how you recoil, or you're like, because we don't know, man. We don't know how long these things will take. It's not like this is a waterfall process, dude. It's not. We're not. This isn't a factory you're taking over where we have it already built. We're building the factory. We're figuring out what widget we're gonna build. Then we're gonna build a factory around that widget. Now, how long is that going to take? Well, how many times are you going to say no? How many times are you going to present something that we feel is the correct way to do it? You're going to go, nah, we don't like that. How many times? Can you just let us know up front what that is, and I will tell you how long is this going to take with any kind of accuracy? And we're going to design it all up front before we even have the contract signed. We're going to design it all, do it all before the contract is even signed. And the thing is, are you going to hold us to these schedules? Because there's no way for us to know how long this is going to take, because we don't know all the answers that we're going to ask along the way as we go through this process together. That's the real answer. It's not that we don't. It's not that these guys don't want to tell you. It's because when you drag it out of us, it's like, okay, here it is, knowing full well we're going to have to revisit these things along the way, and we're going to use up all the time you give us, and then more. So do we have that kind of a understanding, or can we just do? Maybe we do an adventure driven. We just like, look, we got 6 months. You got 6 months to do this, and if you can get your stuff together in that period of time, we'll think about keeping going. And that's the honest truth. Let's keep going.
Architectural challenges do you see? Are we planning for the right scale of users? What risks do you see? What are things
You know how many is this a greenfield? Do they already have a product going? Are they scaling up something that already exists, or greenfield in the whole thing and just gonna blow? We don't know how many users we're gonna have. How would you know? You don't even know if you got product market fit yet. Come on now.
you can't fully estimate? What are but you tried estimating just because I asked you to, right?
This is the problem. Is we're asked to do these estimates, and it's dishonest. You're asking for us to do something that's not possible, and it's dishonest. That's why the only solution is adventure driven, where you're given a time period up front, and we see how far we can get down on this thing, and see how we can work together, and see how responsive you are to my questions. Is it 6 days? Is it a week? Do you give me a couple hours? Can I call you on the phone and say, can we talk about it? Can we work this thing out together as we go along? Or do I going to be another meeting, another schedule? See, it's like they want us to be flexible and like be looking to the future, but they don't want to do this thing where we're like, really how it works is we got this interactivity thing going. And not just with you, with the customer as well. Gotta get, where's the customer? The agile talks about the customer. He's like, oh, I never mentioned it. It's like, completely missing the point. So there's this huge opportunity right now, if it wasn't obvious, in software development to skip all this stuff. To skip all this. How long is it going to take? Can you break it down on a task? It's really important to know how long it's going to take. Yeah, it is. We understand it's really important, but you keep on asking us, and we don't have the ability to tell you. So why don't we get past that? We already have it. Don't you just give us a set amount of time, and then we can try and get there as quickly as possible. And we're thinking what the time frame, what we can accomplish in that time, and then we can get out past this hurt feelings about, you said it was going to be 2 weeks and it's 3. It's like, come on, man.
And once you understand, once the developers tell you what is a bit of an uncertainty, then you can
A bit of an uncertainty. This guy is definitely not a developer. We have no fucking clue, man. We never will. We stop asking us. We got to get past this thing. You're thinking that software development is some sort of manufacturing service business. It's not. It's a knowledge work. We don't know what the things are. If we did, we'd already have it done. We can copy somebody else's stuff, but you're not going to get a lot of value out of that. Or maybe you will. I don't know. Maybe we can just copy somebody else's business and do it with 10 people instead of 100. That's something that sounds like fun.
mitigate those, right? You have those 4 things that are somewhat risky. So what can you do? You can either research, spend a bit of time on researching. Number one, once you realize that
You're never going to have enough research. And at some point, you got to take the risk. You got to have the insight. You have to have the what is it? Intuitive feel, because you're in this market space. You know these customers. You kind of know this problem that they have, and you have a solution that can be done in code, and you have this insight, and you feel that there's at least 100, maybe 1,000 people that have this problem that you can see, and you can get people together that want to do this thing, that are interested in doing that together. There's no guarantees.
there is a risk, you can then deprioritize, for example. So you try to find things that are more important that you do first so that you don't get derailed on your project potentially right away and everything drags
For sure, yeah. So how do you estimate that stuff, man?
on.
See,
Or
they
you
never explain. It's like he says you gotta have estimates, and then he goes, "Oh, you can just go off script." Come on, man, you gotta pick one. And the pick one in software development is you got to go off script. That's the one you have to do unless we're doing some accounting software or just straight up ripping somebody else off. But if you're going to do that, you're going to be writing somebody else after somebody else as opposed to your thing niching down into some other business where you have an insight in that. Makes it fun, actually. So following over somebody else is fine, I guess. I mean, it's very popular to do the copycat stuff. But most people, if you're listening this far, you probably want to do adventure driven. So you want to go after your thing, find your customers for your solution, for your that market space that you want down and go into. That makes you feel like, oh, I'm doing something for some people that really appreciate it. They're not going to call me and complain. They're going to give me insights and help out the thing because we're doing it together. We're building this together. I'm building it for them. They're building. I'm building for them, and they're building my company for me. It's a two-way thing.
you can find a slightly worse but maybe more risk-free alternative. You replace
Risk-free.
the task essentially, or you just remove it altogether and you remove the
Okay, that's all. It's all trade-offs, buddy. Yes, okay. See, I think this is a business development guy.
uncertainty and complexity from your project, and that's going to result in a dramatically better estimate and timeline of your.
Do you have any stats on that? You have to show some stats on that. I'm not believing any of these people when they say it's got better or whatever. I want to see some data. I want to see some data, not just from your company. I want to see some industry independently. With these concepts have been worked out because they're just very flippant with their recommendations
your project. In conclusion, when
and their estimates of results.
building software, you need to understand what's an uncertainty in your project. We talked
The whole thing's uncertain, buddy. It's software.
about the various things, whether it's specialist technology, whether it's research incentive uncertain. You need to understand what that is in your project, and then you can act accordingly and
it's all
replace,
uncertain.
mitigate research, deprioritize to make sure that you develop in time. If you need
It's never going to be on time. It's always going to be. It's always never going to make it because it's something we don't understand or we missed out or not good enough. And it's just going to be an iterative thing. This whole estimating time thing has to go out. This has to go. It just creates bad feelings. It's not realistic. You're focusing on the wrong thing.
help with that, if you need technical leadership that can actually guide you along that route, if you don't have that level of technical leadership in house, then a fractional CTO is probably great.
All right, so he's doing a sales pitch. I'll let him do that. I mean, and I've already explained it, I think, enough. This time estimating thing and just like figuring out how long it's going to deprioritize. Well, it's all risk. It's all risk, man. And the thing is like, are you prepared to do it all the way with no end in sight? There's a good chance it might fall down. Everybody on the team understands that, and I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna do my pet ticket and then punch my clock and everything's fine. It's like, no, man. That's why the adventure driven development, I think, is the future of like a lot of this stuff. I think there's always gonna be these big companies, but they're gonna get smaller as they lay people off more and more. And all these good developers are all like, what am I gonna do now? They're gonna go discover adventure driven or just intuit it, which is all this where stuff comes from anyway. And they're gonna go off on their own thing, and it won't look like this guy's stuff. Kind of gives me a icky feeling. All right, give me a like and subscribe, and I'll continue my ranting.